Hello, and welcome to Shelby Speaks, the concurrency of our classrooms. I'm Adam Watson, the Digital Learning Coordinator here at Shelby County Public Schools. The word concurrency in our vodcast title reflects the reality of many of our classrooms this school year. Classrooms that are a hybrid of students in person and students at home, often being facilitated by a teacher simultaneously. But it is also an intentional nod to the idea of metaphorical currency in our instruction. In the spring of 2020, our educators were forced to pedagogically invest in new innovative strategies to effectively teach in an emergency distance learning environment. As spring became fall, we faced new challenges, and we are thankful for our spring 2020 investment in growing our learning. Our teachers are spending and trading the pedagogical capital built last school year in order to innovate and collaborate even further this school year. Part of that collaboration involved the creation of a district Concurrent Classroom Google Doc full of tips, resources, and videos where educators shared with each other how to navigate through our common challenges. It is selections from these videos that we are highlighting in our latest vodcast series. In this episode, Kelly Hudson, an 8th grade ELA teacher at East Middle, emphasizes the importance of consistency and norms in a concurrent classroom. Kelly also shares her digital organizational structures to ensure that learning is the constant, regardless of where the students are located or whether it is a synchronous or asynchronous environment.
Hi, my name is Kelly Hudson, and I'm an 8th grade language arts teacher at East Middle School. And today I'm just going to talk a little bit about setting norms in a concurrent classroom and how I've been able to teach my in-person students while teaching a group that are at home online at the same time. And so one of the things that I started this year off with, knowing that I needed in place, was that I was going to use one platform for the whole year. So students always went to the same place to get their information for class every day. And so I chose Google Classroom because I've used it in the past, but also I knew that it would house everything I needed, and it's easy for students to use. And so you can see I have all of my classrooms set up here, and I have my additional one for my at-home students. And so this is kind of the go-to for students when either they're confused, they're trying to figure out what they're doing for the day, or just for class, this is where they go. So one of the things that I did before we even returned to the school was show students how to use this platform explicitly. I know a lot of them have used it in the past, but I always assume that they don't know how to use it and then I need to teach them, just so that in the long run, everybody is using it efficiently and I'm not having to have a lot of one-on-one conversations and teaching students how to use it individually. So one of the things that I showed students about Google Classroom was that they should go beyond the stream. A lot of them just want to find their work right on this front page. And what happens, as you can see, is that their work gets buried and they're not able to go back to it. So one of the first things that I introduce them to are these tabs up top. And the fact that the classwork tab is probably where they want to be a majority of the time. And then another thing that I think is really helpful for students is to be organized with it. So you can see that I have all of my units laid out into different topics. So you just create a topic, and this organizes it for students so that if they need to go back to something, they know where to find it. So, you know, the lit work is something that's ongoing. It's every week. So that one's always at the top. And then the next unit that we're about to start next week is literary nonfiction. So they see it there, they know it's coming. And then the unit that we're in right now is investigative journalism. And so everything we've done for this whole unit is under this topic, and they can go back to it and they can find it easily. And I think this is the most important part, and this is what keeps my classes concurrent, is that I upload a slideshow for them every single day for what we're doing. It's actually the same slideshow for the entire unit. So all they have to do is click on it, and they can easily follow along from home. So here's an example. This is what we're doing today. So I always put the slides for the day at the top, and if they need to go back to something, it's just below it. So when my students log in for the at-home students and the at-school students for that one class where I teach them all, they go to here, and this is how we start the class. They know to start with the bell ringer. They know that when I get on that live call, the expectation is that they're doing the bell ringer, that they're jotting notes in their notebook. One of the things that I think is important also is being predictable and following the same structure. And I think when you use the workshop model, it lends itself really well to that. So students know that they're going to come in, they're going to have a bell ringer, we're going to go over the learning target, there will be some sort of mini lesson, and then there will be a composing time and some sort of reflection at the end. And so when I set up my lessons these ways, they know what to expect every single day, whether they're in my classroom or they're at home or they're in that class where I'm doing both at the same time. So I think that's really important for students to have. Another thing that I do, like I said earlier, was I teach them everything explicitly the first time. So one of the things that we have ongoing is their lit work. They turn that in every week. And it's a bunch of different work they do. They're reading plus, vocab work, some independent reading. But I don't just expect them to know how to fill it out the first time. I always provide them with an example of a completed one and then video instructions on how to do it, as well as explicitly teaching them how to do it in class. And so that's just something, that's a practice that I've picked up over the years, that if I'm introducing a new structure to them, I make sure that there's resources for them to access. And then most importantly, I think, especially with classes looking so different for students right now, I want to give them an opportunity to have voice and choice in a lot of the changes that we're making for this year. So one of the things we talked about earlier this year was that we had to come up with some digital discussion norms, because we knew that we were going to have to do a lot more online than we could do normally in the classroom. For example, group work. I'm huge on having students work together and doing projects a lot. And we kind of had to reconfigure what that looks like this year. And a lot of it has to be done online. You can still do it as groups, but we had to come up with new norms for that. And so I gave the students an opportunity to kind of practice that. And it was really, I just kind of let them go and see what happened. And then from that, they were able to tell me some of the norms that they wanted. So every time we get together in groups, here's what I want. And so after that activity, I went ahead and created a Jamboard, just kind of reviewing what they said would work best for them. So I think in the concurrent classroom, there's just a few things that that kind of need to be in place. Your students need to know where to go to access their work and all those resources. They need a lot of explicit teaching up front, and it'll save you time in the long run. And then they need tons of models, examples, videos, explanations for anything they're doing, just so that they can go back and look at that, and you don't have to be fielding all of those questions all day long. I hope this is helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me.